All right, so everybody, good things happen on Fridays. My name's Rob Thomas. I'm a BG5 enthusiast. I love doing these interviews because it gives our community the opportunity to learn more about each person that makes up this awesome community. And really quickly, before I get too far, for those of you who haven't taken a course yet, it might just be your first time to ever visit either the Institute's webpage, our YouTube account, or our Facebook page, let me share with you what BG5 is. Very simply, it's the human design system for business and career. That's the simplest way to put it. And what a change it has made in the lives of everybody that goes down the path and takes the courses. So today, I've got the unique pleasure of being able to spend time with Anna Murphy. She is an alternative health educator. She's also had her own body-centered psychotherapy practice that focused on body work. She's also very well versed in the chakra system, and she's a master gardener. So with that, I want to say and give Anna the opportunity to say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. I'm grateful to be here.
Anna, thank you for joining us. I've been looking forward to this conversation ever since we scheduled it. What I'd like to do first, I just kind of gave a brief thumbnail of some of the things that you've brought to our community. Can you, or will you please give us a brief synopsis of your background and your current interests?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. One thing I just want to say, I like to hear Anna. People do say Anna, but I like Anna better.
Anna, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So in general, as you already heard from Rob, I have a long background, over 40 years, in alternative health education, body work. I'm a retired psychotherapist. And my interest has always been in communication. Communication with your body, communication with the earth, communication with other people. So in earlier times, I went into body work to help people with pain and chaos in their lives. And physically, I sort of wore out. My hands just wouldn't do that work anymore. But I became a psychotherapist and integrated a lot of the body work. It was body-centered psychotherapy. So in sessions, we would often touch a point or do movement or something like that that would help integrate the new information, the new order, let's say, because sometimes people would get so familiar with their pain and chaos that became the story. And we all know that lane, I think. But when you have a chance to discover or include other energies, those things get relieved. So that was my first introduction to mechanics, what we call mechanics now in BG5. So I spent years loving that kind of work, energy work, physical contact, communication. I taught in healing schools. I lived in Santa Fe for many years, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've been a lifelong gardener. And now, like I said, I retired. I went through several coaching programs, and I love the coaching program in BG5 because you get to be your unique coach. You don't have to, there's some standard procedure, I guess, in the business world, the coaching world, certain kinds of questions, certain kinds of prompts, certain kinds of goal orientation. And in BG5, what I love is it's not so externally organized, it's internally organized. The mechanics are really about you, how you organize and operate, and therefore all your natural abilities can come out. And so this system, to me, fits perfectly with organic gardening. And, there's a lot of conversation right now about regenerative agriculture, regenerative business. In general, it's a regenerative design we're looking for all over the place. And if you ask me, BG5 is regenerative in its complete nature. So I have integrated, or am now integrating, my coaching, my consulting, teaching, speaking, all from the paradigm of human design in BG5. Because like Rob said, I did spend many years teaching the 7 chakra system. And when I discovered human design, which is a 9-centered system, it was a big shift for me. I couldn't work anymore for a while. I had to reorganize deeply, deeply. It was a very profound shift for me. And yet all the wisdom of having taught all those years and understood those mechanics in that form really helped inform me about how this system works. So right now, my interests really are in letting people know that their comfort, their life work, their connection with body and soul, and the community they're in are all wrapped up in your mechanics. If you understand your mechanics, then life gets a whole lot easier. And it's just like the soil. If we feed the soil, there's something called, in organic gardening, there's a little phrase that I have loved, and it's called feed the soil, not the plant, which basically means feed the microbes, re-energize the soil, and then you don't have to pour fertilizer over the top. And that's pretty much what I'm interested right now in, is sort of feeding the soil of your business interest, or feeding the soil of your life work, or lighting up your own personal life work and helping you understand the mechanics. And then things start working really, even if there's challenges, things start flowing much better.
That's so beautifully put. You said so many things that really piqued my interest. One of the things that you mentioned was that how specific our system is, so that you can give specific coaching to others, versus that. And what I'm going to say is not an attempt to slam coaching, because it's a phenomenal practice, but sometimes there's a frame that one person tries to give every single person. Whereas in our practice, the frame is the person's design, right? That is what informs the conversation. So I'm like you in that way. That's the one thing that really knocked me over when I first saw it. I was like, this is fantastic. It doesn't get any more specific and geared towards the individual than anything that I've seen before. And then the way that you just talked about nurturing the soil, and then how that integrates into your practice, it's beautiful, because I do, out there in the business world, the business owners are kind of covering up the soil, aren't they? They're kind of, where is the fertilizer, or where's that one little thing that we can do without having to dig in, so that we can make our business, and to analogize this, make this plant flourish and prosper and do well. So, wow, thank you for that.
And I want to jump in just for a second and add something here, because our older model has always been from the top down, from the executives down to the workers. And in this whole regenerative design, in all the phases that people are discovering it, you're actually working from the ground up, where everybody has a very unique and special place, a very unique and special life work, a very unique style of interacting with people. So that's what's exciting, just in mentioning that, because I spent years in psychotherapy, in the world of psychology. And again, I really value psychology, but one of my paradigm shifts was understanding the difference between psychology and mechanics.
Mm.
And that's a really big thing. A lot of, in BG5, we're not out to fix anything. And yet,
Mm-hmm.
and the model of psychology is about taking things apart, fixing them, fixing what's wrong, looking at, analyzing things, all of that. And that can be very profound. And I value all my experience there. But, excuse me, in all my background of understanding some body mechanics, when you actually understand the mechanics of your own personal design, everything just starts working easier, so that it's your business, your career, your family, whatever, starts organizing again from the ground up, from that position of uniqueness in context with where you need to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're known in our system as what we call an innovator. That's one of the 4 different career types. Will you, for those that are watching, explain what an innovator is and possibly share a couple of, examples or points from your experience so far?
Mm-hmm. An innovator is meant to impact people. We are here to disperse. And if you really understand that concept, think for a minute. Let's say you're in a rowboat on a lake, or a motorboat, whatever kind of boat. But that boat disperses water. So our function is literally to displace one thing for another. Our energy has sort of an enclosed aura, an enclosed energy about us. This has nothing to do with psychology, nothing to do with being a good or bad person or any of that. It's the mechanics of how the energy is formed in our structure. And the purpose of that sort of enclosed aura is really to protect the originality, a seed, an embryonic energy inside us, that when we are in tune with ourselves, aligned with our mechanics, we are moved by elements inside us to put something out to the world. Sometimes we know what we're doing consciously, and sometimes we don't. But an example is, let's see, just lost my example. But, in general, we have an imposing energy, let's say that. And we're not trying to be control freaks or overpower people, but we do have a very impressive energy around us. And a lot of times when we don't understand our mechanics, we try to shrink or please, and then that really constricts our creative initiation. That's what we're here for, is to initiate something new. So when you initially put that boat into the water, there's ripples. You displace some of that, and there's ripples that you'll see moving all the way to the edges of the pond or lake or whatever that is. And that's what our energy does, is create ripples. And sometimes that's very discouraging. And we can get very discouraged if we don't know how to operate in our system. But let's say you have a new idea and you put it out and you just, no, I don't like that, change it, whatever. That can be pretty abrupt to somebody who's worked on a project or put their love into something. So one of the things we, as innovators, we need to know is how to communicate, how to signal. We're putting the boat in the water right now. It might disturb the field here, but you probably will like it in the end. That's what we really call initiating, is that we will walk into a room and there's those little tiny, if you're sensitive to energy or light, you know, sometimes a light will flicker. It's like that. You just can't help but feel the impact of an innovator in a room. And we're not trying to impose and make that impact, but we have to be given permission to be that. That's one thing when you asked about what we might want people to know about us, is that we are not trying to take over. We simply, it's our job to bring something new to the table.
Yes. So I've never heard it been put that way. That was beautiful. Uh, Especially the idea of dispersing. I just had never thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense. And I also liked the example that you talked about, the ripple in the water, because that's very true. I have a very vivid example of a time when I worked with an innovator. And at the time, I had no idea about BG5, so I was uneducated. And so, as a result of that, and not understanding the mechanics of the individual, I took them personally,
Yeah.
and I completely misunderstood them, and I took them wrong. Like you mentioned, this person had a very powerful aura, a very powerful nonverbal presence that I could feel was pushing outward. And sadly, I took it personally. I felt threatened and so on. However, this person had so many tremendous gifts and intentions for me, but sadly I missed it because I misunderstood the mechanics of the situation. So
Nicely said. And one of the things that's very classic in the original material that was presented about innovators is that we can be defensive, we can be angry, we can create resistance. Because sometimes we don't, when I first heard I was an innovator, it made sense creatively. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that's why I have been feeling like I'm walking uphill all my life.
Mm.
Because what I am naturally meant to do was imposing. But the thing I learned from BG5, which made a complete difference, is the idea of informing. And informing, as an example, is just signaling a lane change. Because that's what we do. We change lanes. And we have to do it as we're moved. And that can be surprising or disconcerting. So if you're moving, changing lanes without any signal, yes, somebody, especially that doesn't understand, is going to take it personally. You bumped me off the track. And then there's a whole bunch of dynamics go on there. But as an innovator learns to turn their signals on, I'm going to get up and go stand on the porch for a minute and get some fresh air. Then people aren't offended. Oh, why did she walk away? We were having a good time. Whatever, the storylines can get very elaborate when there's not that signal going on. So that's one of the things that's changed my life immensely. And that's where my passion for other innovators really lives, is helping other innovators, because we are rather a unique group, a very small group, considering we're 8%, I think, of the population.
Yeah. Anna, that's actually a perfect segue. What I'd like for you to do next is to share more about that passion that you have, the Innovator Project, so that if there's an innovator listening and they want to engage, they might be receive that invitation, or at least know more about it and know that it exists.
Okay, so in this moment, I am initiating contact with anybody that this resonates to. I have a project called the Innovator Project, TIP, TIP. And really, it's originated out of my sense of isolation, because innovators do not tend to reach out unless you feel welcomed, unless you feel understood. You tend to go off and gather information and then come back and, you know, try to work with your cohorts or be in your family, whatever. But for me, understanding my type made such a big difference in my world that I want to support other innovators and their loved ones and their associates, whoever, all the people that interact with innovators, because one of the things that's important is to understand that all four types create a closed loop circuit, and we all need each other. Even though there's a ton more builder types and a few less advisors and very few innovators and really very few evaluators, we still create a circuit together. We can't actually do our own life work without each other. So I need to initiate, and what that is I give prompts or ideas or, you know, creative sparks to the other types, and they do things for me. So it's really important that we understand how we work as a unit, how we relay through this circuit together. So my interest, the fundamental parts of this TIP project, and it's an exploration, it's a discovery. It's not a finite, this is A, B, C, D, and then life's going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. This is an exploration. So I'm doing interviews right now and doing soft research through surveys and interviews, and also preparing some classes, some literature for people. Also, the website is not up yet, but it will be the contact place, both for innovators, a private group for innovators, just innovators, and more of an open forum for innovators and their people. So that's it in a nutshell. Hopefully the interviews will turn into courses and things like that. I am developing a coaching program. So anyone that is interested in as an innovator and needs that kind of support, or who works with someone, has an innovator child or parent or relative, anybody, you know, that is interested in that. One thing I do want to say is you need us. And a lot of times we are rejected and we don't even realize our value. You need us, we need you. But one of the perceptions is you want to kind of get away from us. So if through this project you begin to understand our value, you'll understand your value as well.
Absolutely. The symbiotic part that you were talking about, how it's a continuous circle. Yeah, I mean, everything begins with the initiator, the innovator. Someone on this planet is actually designed to do that. Me being an express builder, I thought it was me for 40 something years until I got, you know, this information and understood who I am correctly. So this project that you're doing is fascinating. Whatever I can personally do, or whatever support you need from the Institute, just let us know. For those of you that are watching, if you are an innovator, please drop a comment below somewhere so that I can then pick up on that and respond. That's what I do. And connect you up with Anna so that she can do this very, very, very important work. Now, why am I, as an express builder, saying that this work is very important? Because one, Anna already mentioned we're only talking about 8% of the planet, one. Two, the other 92% of the planet completely either disregards the innovator, or they, like I mentioned, completely misunderstand them. And yet they're a vital part of the flow, right? They're a vital part. So please connect with us via any of the threads, and I'll make sure that we get you hooked up with Anna to support her in her project. And Anna, I'm looking forward to seeing and watching this just grow, to see the material that you put out, whether it's in a course or a program or coaching or this, that, and the other. And you're doing some really, really exciting stuff. My final question or curiosity that I want your help with and presenting to the others is, and we've already kind of talked about it a little bit. We talked about the symbiotic nature. We talked about the fact that that the world needs the innovator. Can you just briefly, maybe from a high level, educate all of us on how to work with an innovator?
Yes. Thank you for that question. I know myself as an innovator, and part of the project is about learning the variations of how innovators work, because there are several styles within that type. But the general theme for working with an innovator is to inform them. They're often leaders. They're before you actually know your whole design, you can be really grumpy because you feel defeated all the time. You're trying to grow something. You're trying to put that seed in the soil. So it's really important to inform an innovator. Let's say, I don't know your exact experience, Rob, when you had your innovator person you were working with. Mm-hmm. But somehow you felt displaced around them.
Yeah.
So if that's the experience, you can say, I don't quite understand. Can you help me understand what it is you're doing? How can we learn to work together? This is not so much intellectual. What that does is sort of break the seal of this enclosed energy. And we need the help of others to inform us as well as we inform somebody else. Just like I said, let's say you're in a meeting, business meeting, family meeting, something, okay, and the innovator just gets up and walks away. And I had this experience a long time ago with a business person. I was talking to him, and all of a sudden he walks away. And it upset me. And I thought, how rude,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, now that I understand that this innovator system, the type, I realized, because I had watched him, he got an idea. He talked to another person, and lo and behold, in about 2 weeks, they had another project that they presented. And I didn't personalize it a lot, except to go, that was rude. But it's easy to personalize something when you don't know why that change just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about BG5 is you do not have to personalize some of these little ripples you run into.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest, if you're feeling upset, you can say, what was that change about? You got up and walked away. I didn't understand that. Without having to go into some drama and explanation and you did this and I did that. You can just say that a change happened. What was that? And for the innovator on the inside, we have to learn to signal, to inform, and we can say, I need to go to the bathroom. That's why I ran out the door. Or something that's actually sometimes very simple. And we are not meaning to be offensive. Does that help in a
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it really does. And I like the example that you talked about. And, you know, sadly, I'm looking back at the scenarios where I took this innovator personally. It was probably no big deal at all. You know,
Mhm.
I maybe, well, to be blunt and honest, you know, this guy was just trying to help me because the more that he helped me, the better his company did. He was the CEO. He talked about many innovators are leaders. This guy was, for sure. So I've really enjoyed our conversation. You've given us an opportunity to learn more about all of the integrations that you bring into the community. We've also been given the opportunity to learn directly from you what an innovator actually is. It's one thing to read about an innovator in a book or in a text or some other material, and then it's another thing to be able to experience it and have dialogue. So I'm very grateful to you and you know for giving me your time and giving everybody else in our community the opportunity to understand what an innovator is and how to work together. Because the more we work together, the better this whole ride becomes.
That's
Right?
what we're meant to do. Yes.
Yeah. So Anna, again, thank you very much. For those of you that are watching, if you have interest in communicating with Anna about her project, maybe you're an innovator, maybe you're not. I'll bet that we all know some. So if you can be of forward progress to her in any way, please feel free to drop comments in any of the forums and I'll make sure that the connection happens. So I'm going to go ahead and end off. Want all of you to have a great weekend. And Anna, thank you again.
Thank you. My pleasure.